So we're doing something major. We're reducing the numbers of immigrants that will come to Canada for the next 3 years. Today, I'm going to let you in on what happened, where we made some mistakes, and why we're taking this big turn.
The challenge of getting by financially from day to day is the fundamental preoccupation of Canadians. And we've seen it all through our surveying through 2024.
According to a report released by Mortgage Professionals Canada, 1/3 of Canadians polled who don't own a home feel like they will never be able to afford their first house because of high interest rates and house prices.
Price pressures remain top of mind for Canadians. The cost of living found to be the standout domestic headline from coast to coast.
In 2023, Canada saw a historic shift. For the first time in decades, more Canadians reported dissatisfaction with their quality of life than ever before. The cause? A storm of skyrocketing housing costs, stagnant wages, and an influx of immigrants struggling to integrate into an already overwhelmed economy.
Immigration. In the last 2 years, our population has grown really fast, like baby boom fast. And increasingly, bad actors like fake colleges and big chain corporations have been exploiting our immigration system for their own interests.
Canada, once seen as a beacon of opportunity, is now facing an uncomfortable reality. Living there has become nearly impossible for many. Canada's housing crisis is no secret. Between 2005 and 2023, the average cost of a home in major cities like Toronto and Vancouver more than tripled, jumping from around $200,000 to well over $750,000. In cities like Vancouver, prices now hover around $1.2 million, making homeownership a distant dream for the average Canadian. But what caused this crisis? One major factor is government policies. Back in the 1990s, the federal government withdrew significant funding for public housing projects, leaving provinces to shoulder the burden. Without adequate support, housing development couldn't keep pace with population growth. Adding to this, foreign investment has played a critical role. Over the years, wealthy investors, particularly from China and the Middle East, have purchased properties in Canada's largest cities. These homes often remain vacant, driving up prices for locals. Another issue is the financialization of housing. Large corporations, such as real estate investment trusts, REITs, treat housing as an asset rather than a necessity. This pushes costs higher, with profits prioritized over affordability. By 2024, Canada faced a housing supply gap of more than 3.5 million homes. This shortfall disproportionately affects lower-income families who already spend as much as 50% of their income on rent in urban areas. For renters, the situation is equally dire. In Toronto, the average monthly rent for a one-bedroom apartment exceeded $2,500 in late 2023, up nearly 20% from the previous year. These housing challenges are reshaping Canada's social fabric. Millennials are delaying marriage and children, opting instead to live with their parents. For immigrants, housing costs are often the first barrier to integration, forcing many into overcrowded or substandard accommodations. But the most alarming trend? Homelessness. In 2016, over 235,000 Canadians experienced homelessness annually, with shelters at maximum capacity in many cities. The question remains, with such overwhelming challenges, can Canada overcome this crisis, or will its housing market continue to push residents to the brink? Canada's reputation as a land of opportunity attracts immigrants from around the world. In 2022, over 437,000 new permanent residents arrived in Canada, breaking immigration records. Yet, for many, the reality of finding a stable and well-paying job is far from the promises of economic prosperity. Immigrants often arrive in Canada with impressive qualifications. According to Statistics Canada, over 60% of newcomers have a university degree, compared to just 28% of the Canadian-born population. Despite this, many immigrants find themselves working in jobs far below their skill levels. Why? Canada's labor market is notorious for undervaluing foreign education and experience. Doctors, engineers, and accountants frequently find their credentials deemed invalid, forcing them to undergo lengthy and expensive recertification processes. Some never complete these processes due to financial constraints, leaving them stuck in low-wage roles like driving taxis or working in warehouses. While English and French proficiency is a requirement for most immigration streams, language fluency doesn't always guarantee integration into the workforce. Immigrants often struggle with industry-specific terminology and networking, further isolating them in their search for jobs. Even when immigrants do secure jobs, they are often paid significantly less than their Canadian-born counterparts. A 2021 report by RBC Economics found that immigrants earned 10% to 30% less than Canadian-born workers, even when they had the same qualifications. Additionally, many newcomers end up in precarious employment, Temporary jobs, part-time roles, and contracts with no benefits dominate the job market for immigrants, leaving them vulnerable to economic instability. Canada's economy depends on immigrants to address labor shortages, especially in industries like healthcare, construction, and technology. Yet, the systemic barriers they face create a cycle of underutilization. When skilled professionals are forced into low-paying jobs, not only do they suffer, but Canada loses out on the full economic benefits of their expertise. The struggles faced by immigrants have a ripple effect on their families. Parents working long hours in multiple jobs have less time to spend with their children, affecting family cohesion and mental health. According to a study by the Canadian Mental Health Association, newcomers are twice as likely to experience depression and anxiety compared to the general population. The promise of a better life in Canada often turns into a struggle for survival. As immigrants grapple with these challenges, the country's reputation as a haven of opportunity continues to be called into question. Canada is often lauded for its universal healthcare system and quality of life, but beneath the surface lies a crumbling infrastructure that struggles to meet the demands of its growing population. The healthcare system, once a cornerstone of Canadian pride, is now under immense strain. Canada's publicly funded healthcare system guarantees medical care for all residents, but the reality is a far cry from the ideal. In 2023, the average wait time for specialized medical treatment reached 27.7 weeks, according to the Fraser Institute. For comparison, wait times in 1993 were just 9.3 weeks. A key issue is the shortage of healthcare professionals. Statistics Canada reported a deficit of over 17,000 nurses nationwide in 2022, leading to overworked staff and reduced quality of care. The situation is exacerbated in rural areas where accessing a family doctor can take years. Some regions, like parts of Newfoundland and Labrador, have seen up to 20% of residents without a primary care physician. Mental health services are particularly lacking. While awareness has improved, access remains a challenge. According to a 2021 Canadian Mental Health Association survey, 1 in 3 Canadians reported needing mental health support but couldn't afford or access timely care. For immigrants, the barriers are even greater due to language and cultural differences. Canada's infrastructure faces similar challenges. Investments in healthcare, housing, and infrastructure are critical to maintaining its reputation as one of the world's best places to live. However, without significant reforms, the dream of a better life in Canada may continue to elude many residents.